Hey, true believers, Chris Mack coming at you with an excellent comic book. Today we are going over Spider-Man number 11. This is Perceptions Part 4 or 5, and I must admit that this is probably one of the best arcs during Todd McFarlane's run on his solo Spider-Man book. The premise of this whole arc was that there was a slew of kid murders in the Canadian wilderness, and Spider-Man is basically sent there by the Bugle to cover the story like it becomes a media circus. But also, because the reason it becomes a circus is because it involves, as you see here on the cover, the Wendigo. So everyone believes it to be the Wendigo that's killing all of these kids. There's like actual eyewitness reports of the Wendigo holding a child, and it actually brings Wolverine up here to the wilderness as well. And him and Spidey team up. And Spider-Man, being there as Peter Parker, he doesn't want to reveal that Spider-Man is there as well to kind of make the connection. So he's having to keep all of his Spider-Man duties to the nighttime and let Peter Parker do his thing during the day. So he's kind of hindered in what he can do, and Logan's really breathing down Peter's neck saying, get to the bottom of this or I'm going to start doing it my own way. Now, the print date on this book was June 1991, and I like how this is 10 days into this event, and Peter's saying, it finally happened. Someone else has seen the Wendigo. As a matter of fact, 6 people saw it. There were officers in the bush hunting down the savage baby killer when the monster attacked them. 2 are in the hospital with injuries. The others are shaken emotionally. I understand their fear. To face something eye to eye that you don't believe exists is disturbing. It blows all your previous assessments of life to smithereens. And Peter starts musing, if the Wendigo can exist, then what else can? And then he turned the page, and oh my God, look at the artwork, guys. Todd McFarlane was the one that created the more spaghetti web looking style, which really has always worked for Spidey in my personal opinion. I think it was Todd himself that said that the Marvel editors initially hated it, but the fans liked it, so they kind of kept it, and it sort of saved Todd's butt in that regard. Speaking of who's responsible for this amazing art, let's talk about who made this. This is Story and Pencils, Todd McFarlane. Inks is Rick McGuire and McFarlane. Rick Parker, letters. Greg Wright, colors. Jim Scalrup was the editor, and Tom DeFalco was the editor-in-chief. And I love how Todd kind of sticks to how he always signs his work here. Kind of keeps it the same way here with the credits and the little spiders kind of differentiating everyone. Just really adds that extra layer to these old books. And I tell you what, again, early days before digital coloring, you don't see this type of quality anymore. That is spectacular. Just a very spectacular Spider-Man, pun intended. Now, going back to the story, there's another columnist here named Anna, and she's kind of convinced that, it's the Wendigo that's killing children. But Peter firsthand knows that it's not. He's come to find out that there's more to this than meets the eye. I don't want to give it away because I want you guys to read this story. It's really tragic, and we'll go over the whole arc. It's just I happened upon this issue this weekend, and I just wanted to dive into it because the artwork, the storytelling, just gorgeous. So he comes to Anna and says, I'm here, because I've been given some information that suggests that someone in town killed the boys, not the Wendigo. And she doesn't want to believe Peter. She actually starts getting mad at him. She goes, give me a break. I've been busting my butt on this story, covering every angle. So far, nothing points to human. I don't know why you do this, Peter, but I expected better from you. I thought you were different than the other shark reporters. What would possess you to do this? Because it's the truth. And I love how the olden days, yes, Spider-Man would quip and he'd kind of be a smartass, and yeah, he was kind of a dick to Flash. But Peter had heart. And yeah, his jokes could be kind of bad. He'd kind of quip like the old school Deadpool. But it wasn't like, for example, Peter just being a clown to everyone and laughing at him. For example, the first few issues of the early Spectacular Spider-Man that just recently came out, everyone hated it because it had Peter up on stage doing stand-up, and there's that mic silence and everyone's just kind of coughing and booing him off the stage. That's not Spider-Man. This Peter Parker, who knew what responsibility was and was a little more stern, this is who Peter Parker is. And that's what leads me to believe that a lot of creators now don't really take the time to ingest the characters that they're reading. So Anna's just saying, I don't have time to deal with your professional jealousy. Get out. And what I love is how Peter says, before I go, ask yourself a few questions, since you seem to have all the answers. Why did one boy have on clothing and the other didn't? Wendigo wouldn't change his habits. And why have the forensic reporters been delayed, except for a few facts that were leaked to help fuel the fires of confusion? If you're interested, I've got plenty more unanswered questions. You know where you can reach me. And he even says, now it's my turn to tell you that I'm disappointed in you, Anna, kind of letting yourself getting caught up in the whirlwind. That's the Peter Parker that I knew through all the years. And then we come into the Wendigo. And what I like here is that, in a sense, it doesn't necessarily humanize the Wendigo because the Wendigo isn't human. But it shows his plight that he's actually the victim in this story. He's saying that he's fighting to maintain consciousness. It feels a burning pain deep in its belly, though it can't rationalize why it's there. The word bullets has no meaning. And so he does everything that he can to help himself, but he ends up passing out. And you turn the page and just look at how Wolverine is drawn here. Just flipping spectacular. And this goes back to, if you guys remember, the first Wolverine run back in the early 80s with Claremont and Frank Miller, where what leads Logan to the story is he's kind of being a hermit in the Canadian outback, and he's hunting these people that are illegally poisoning the bears or something like that, and how Wolverine takes offense to that. And here, seeing the Wendigo shot and in pain, he goes, someone's going to pay dearly. Spidey better be doing his job, because I'm getting tired of waiting. And so Pete, again, he's doing everything he can, but he's going up against how everyone's just buying in to the hype of the story. And you come to find out that there are some people that are trying to cover it up because they don't want to harm the face of the community. And you can kind of see how people start to cover for one another and the deceptions of what this is supposed to be, kind of like a homely town, essentially. And Wolverine begins to work on the Wendigo. And what I like is how he's saying that it's nice to be able to use these claws other than just, for destruction. And I like that it kind of shows this different side of Logan, that he cares, that he's trying to get this bullet out of the Wendigo. Because it's time for Dr. Adamantium. He goes, I don't get to use these claws for positive reasons that often. Nice to know that my Vegematics can do more than slice and dice. There's something to be said for that too. Now if I can just stop this bleeding, and got it. If the wound's not infected and Wendy doesn't strain himself, I think the operation will be a success. So here, even though, like Vegematics, some of the wording's kind of funny, Todd understands Logan. He's more than a grumpy killing machine. That's what I hate with, they brought Old Man Logan into the modern day comics. They're just like, oh, don't listen to the old man. He's just old and cranky and crotchety. Or they'll just show Wolverine as like a straight up murder machine, which he can be. But he fights with that side of himself to hang on to his humanity. And here you see Wolverine in a moment of compassion, saving the Wendigo, getting that bullet out of him. And it shows another layer of Logan. Now, the other part that I really want to go over, and I mean, just look at that. Look at how they did Wendigo. I like how they kind of make him look mythical, kind of like he's almost a whirlwind of fur. It just really adds to to the, what do you call it, just to the book in itself and how Wolverine's just sitting there chilling, having a smoke. Glad to see you're feeling better. Who says you're wimpy? Now, the last thing that I do want to go over, actually, you know what, there's a joke here I actually do want to go over, is Pete's struggling with this case. He's like, I can't bring Wendigo here. He'd be dead before he hit the city limits. That'd make a story. Actually, Wolverine could hide Wendigo. That's not a problem. What bothers me is that a murderer is down there, and I can't do anything about it. I can't let anyone see me, which hinders my daytime activity. I'm getting to be like that bat fella. And I had to have a big grin because, Batman represent, and, McFarlane had worked on Batman as well. So just seeing him make that little reference there put the biggest smile on my face because the artwork, the story, it just adds, there's so many freaking layers to this. Now, what I'm trying to get at too is Wendigo and Wolverine go hunting, and they find something, and you see Wendigo scream, and you see this anger and hate and rage in his face, and he goes, "It's been a long night." For the first time, Wendy howls, not with pain or anger, but with anguish. So, it may seem a little on the nose that, yes, man is the ultimate villain in terms of the environment, etc., so forth, and to himself. But McFarlane writes it in such a way that it's thought-provoking, it's emotionally provoking, because there's a moment where Peter's lost, and he goes, God, Mary Jane, where are you when I need you? Because Mary Jane is his lightning rod. It keeps him centered and focused. And the only person to really rely on is Wolverine. That's, them having those different personalities doing what they can. It just made for such a great dynamic. Perceptions is an excellent story arc, and I'm glad that I found part 4, because I think I have 1, 2, 3, and 5, I think. We'll eventually go over the whole thing. I just got to go back and see which ones I do have, but I know I didn't have 4. Saw this and I was like, mine! So if you guys have enjoyed what you've seen in this book, which I highly recommend, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if you can get a copy. If you have enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you can possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little windy bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below, or our social media pages, which I will make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.